Okay. So today we're talking about Sage 100 Contractor, and I'm going to, whoa, I'm getting a ton of feedback on my microphone. Is everyone, are you hearing that, Ashley?
I am not.
Okay.
Everything's
all
good
right. Well,
on my end.
I'll try to ignore it. I just don't want everyone else to have that problem. So you guys are going to have to be patient with me because I'm not sure I'm going to get through the whole session without calling it Sage Master Builder. It's so ingrained in my brain. So, but we are talking about Sage 100 Contractor, and I think the thing that strikes me the most about this release over the versus the release we've had over the last couple of years is how many new features there are. So even if some of you have installed the software already and are already starting to use it just yourself, I think you can benefit from talking about some of the features that you may not have discovered yet. So I'm going to go into a lot of the detail, but I want you to ask questions if you have questions, because this needs to be interactive. And if you raise your hand, Ashley, if you could go ahead and unmute them so they can ask their question, that would be great. I'm going to spend most of the time in Sage 100 Contractor, but to begin with here, we have a few slides, and these are going to be available to you. We're going to be talking about installation, licensing, user interface, kind of global features, and then module specific. Here's the first chance for everybody to raise their hands. I want to know which one of you or who of you uses service receivables. Not everybody in the group does, so I put it at the very end with so many things to go over. Those of you that are using service receivables are going to have to wait till the very end of the presentation, so sorry. But so is Jason the only one? Anybody else that uses service receivables? Carrie? Yep. I know Carrie. This is Thomas. Okay. Anybody else? So we'll have a 1-on-4 at the end of the session. Oh, there's Patty. Okay. So looks like a few people do. So are they? So you can go ahead and take off your raising your hand or unraise your hand. Okay, so we're going to go over that at the end because everything else is more generic to everyone in the program would be using it. Okay, so the first thing you notice, and I'm sure all of you have, but there is a new installation. No longer are you going to be getting a CD in the mail. You are going to be downloading it, and there's lots and lots of information on Sage's site for you to do that, so I'm not going to go over all that information, but you should have gotten a pre-release notice telling you that the download was coming, and then you received a release notice on the 21st. So if you didn't, you can use those. If you didn't see those emails, you can use those dates to kind of go and find them, okay? And let's talk about preparation here for a second. What I like to do is before you start the install, I like to go into Sage Master Builder and go to the Help About screen and look at this information here, the name of the company, and it needs to be exact, and your customer ID. This is the same ID that you use when you call in to Sage customer support. And you can get those pieces of information before you start installing. I can't tell you how many people that I've been working with that kind of forget to do that. They don't have that number because they're long-time clients and they don't remember where it is, and then they can't, they have to call for it or they can't find it or whatever. So just as a, kind of a word to the wise, I'm going to give you that. You will get this release notice, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's coming from, in case it went into your junk mail, it's coming from activation@sage.com, and I would suggest to you that you put that in your safe list or your white list on your email. And then this little section of it, if we go back to this slide for a second, this is the little section in blue right here. This little section of it is that same information, except it only lists the customer name your registered name. It doesn't list the customer ID. So you either need to get it for about or get it from some other, where you have it written down someplace. Okay? But in that email, there's this link, download now, and you simply click on that, and then it will download the information. And like I said, there's a lot of information online, so I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time going over it, but I thought, because we're talking about the new version of the software, not how to install it. Okay? One other thing before we get started in diving into the software is the licensing is totally new. There's a new icon. There's a new look and feel to it, as well as a new licensing structure. It's still a separate program. It installs with Sage 100 Contractor, but the thing that's so different is it automatically retrieves the license from Sage. So there's no need anymore to have to wait. You get an immediate update of the information. If you need to get a new license, which a lot of people are starting to get busy again, so if you need another license, you can just, once you pay for it, then it's immediately available to you. So it eliminates all that manual entry of all those codes, which I think is really great. I can't open mine because my information is confidential, so I took some screenshots of that. To look at the information, you basically open the License Manager by double-clicking on your desktop, and then you click this little Edit Registration Information link. And you have to do this before, you have to install the licensing before you can use the software at all. So this is kind of a critical piece. If you don't, if you don't do it, you won't get anywhere else. Then you enter that Sage Client ID and the registration name. And again, those are already, available in your current Sage Master Builder under the About. And if you need additional information, you can always refer to the PDFs that are in the programs file here. And this, I'm going to send this to you so you don't have to write anything down. Okay, so now with that short introduction, anybody have any questions on licensing or installation? Okay, nobody's hands go. Oh, Carrie. Yes, Carrie. So let's unmute Carrie. Yes, ma'am. You should be able to talk, Carrie. I'm not hearing her. Oh, and Felice has a question. So, Carrie, I don't hear you. Maybe you'll have to put it in the chat. Is everybody hearing me okay? Makes me worried. It makes me worried, Ashley, because I can't hear Carrie. Okay, here we go. Do we have to uninstall before the installation? That's a great question. No, you don't. You can uninstall. You can install right over the top of the current install. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, Felice. If I can get it to. Okay. Thank you, Felice. We can hear you. Great. Where's the new licensing information in Sage 100? It's not, Richard. It's in the. It's only in the license administrator, so it's not actually in Sage 100 itself. Did I answer the question? Did I answer your question sufficiently? Okay. I'm going to keep your question window open here. Okay, so let's dive into the program. So from now on, we're going to be live in Sage 100 Contractor. And Ashley, if I missed anybody's questions or their hands raised, if you could let me know, that would be great, because it's supposed to be for them, and I want it to be interactive. Okay, so the first thing that you notice is, wow, it totally looks different. It's kind of like a duh, Andrea. Of course it looks different, but I was really amazed at how different it looks. So this section of the screen is still called the desktop. It has these bars, these tabs across the top now, and each one of these is called an activity center. And what it is everything is grouped under that activity center for the items that are frequently used in the drop-down list. So everyone has a drop-down list, and every one of them has a process map. So you don't just have the one desktop. This is equivalent to the existing desktop, but now you can navigate through all of these items up above, and they divide them into the kind of logical sections of the information. Now, for an old-timer like me, I can't find anything in here. I don't know if any of you are going to experience the same thing, but it's very difficult for me to find anything. I'm like, which tab is it in? But I'm getting used to it. It's really amazing how quickly this, I'm kind of forcing myself to work with the tabs, and you get used to it pretty quick. And the maps are kind of nice, especially for new users. I think any of you that are new users, but somebody like you, Richard, you probably are going to do what I do. So let's talk about that for a second. There's the settings tab down here. And if you don't like these and you're an old-timer like me, you can come in here and you can hide all the activity centers. And then when you click the Save button, now they're gone. Now, I think that it's nice to learn something new, but I also know that you guys got to get your work done. So you can also decide which ones you want to show. Like if Carrie, you're using the service all the time, so you may just decide that for some of your people, they're just going to want that one, the service, and brings up the work orders. And that may be enough for some of your people to look at. So that might be nice. And we can talk about that more when we get into the service module, or the service portion of it. But I love the customization. I think they did a really nice job of it because they've given you the ability to kind of customize it the way that you want it. So whatever ones you want to turn on, whichever activity center tab you want to turn on, you can, or you can hide them all. And this is also the place where you select now to automatically launch your dashboard when you log in. And if you already have that set, then it will come in that way. So it remembers that setting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this and come back out of it. And in the in the theme of making things customizable, I wanted to talk about these two menus. So you now have menus of, you have the system menu and you have the My menu. And you can, this is automatically going to be filtered by the items that the person does or doesn't have access to. So if you've got them set up in security and they don't have the ability to get into a certain module, they are not going to see that module on their list. But in addition to that, they can customize it by checking off the things that they want to see or not see. And if you check off something up here, then it checks off everything down below. And then if you save it as My menu, now the menu number 1 is gone. So some people like that, other people don't. But you don't have to use it if you don't want to. I love it when you can have it your way. So those things are going to enhance the flexibility of it for even existing users. I think for me, a lot of my users are going to use My menu and they're going to really like it. But if you don't want to use the menu and all you want to do is use the activity center, you can hide it. And there's the menu gone. Okay?
Andrea, this is Ashley.
Yes.
We do have a couple
Yes,
of questions, so I wanted to.
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to go
Okay,
ahead
let
and
me know.
address
Yes,
those.
I didn't see them, please. Okay.
Okay.
Will all my, let's start up at the top here. Do you still have the same security settings? In other words, can you limit what people can access to and see? Yes, absolutely. Your same security settings release will transfer over from Sage Master Builder. And then Patty, you asked, will all of our icons come over from the Sage Master Builder? Yes, that's a really good question. All of your icons come into the Home and Resources. Home and Resources is the only tab that does not have any task icons on it. Okay, so the other ones already have a predefined one, and so it's going to come over here. Does anybody use Sage Master Builder right now on a terminal server or remote desktop connection? You raise your hand? Okay. Okay, well, you will be glad to know that if you do that, then right now one of the biggest pet peeves is that you can't save the icons for the specific user. Well, Sage 100 Contractor, you will be able to. So yay! I don't know. That's a big pet peeve of my clients that have project managers or superintendents that log in remotely, because they want everybody to have their own icon. So now people can set their own icons and their own desktop, and it'll remember it instead of having to have one for everybody that logs in through terminal services or remote desktop connection. So, okay, we have a hand still up. We have Thomas. So let's see what, did I miss your question, Thomas? If I can get, no. Okay, I think we're good. Did I answer everybody's question? Somebody still has their hand up. Let's see who. Thomas, you still have your hand up. Oh, yay! I think your hand's down now, but now Patty's got her hand up. I wish. Okay, Thomas, I'll take you off mute for a second. Can you talk once I take you off mute, or is it because their phones are muted? Maybe it's like the star, like it's the star 6 or something like that. Be nice to talk to you guys. Anyway, chat's working for me. That's good. Okay, Patty, did I answer your question? Because it still says you have a question, but I think I've already answered it. Okay. All right.
Andrea, we do have one more question from a different Thomas that I see, and
Okay.
he wants to know, does all the data automatically transfer over?
Yes, ma'am. Yep. Yes, Thomas, it does. All the data automatically transfers over. Okay, so now, in the spirit of customization, let's talk about customizing the Activity Center. And the way to do that is clicking on this little tab down here. Now, and it's going to customize the one I'm clicking on. So if I'm clicking on Clients and Service, it's going to edit the Clients and Service. If I'm clicking on Home and Resources, it's going to edit the Home and Resources. If you don't want to use the Activity Centers, then you're going to have to put any icons or whatever shortcuts on the Home and Resources Center. So let's talk about that one first. So once you click it, then now it opens up a whole edit panel. And I want to go over each one of those items so that you can see. So the first thing you can do is you can click the menu over here, and you can left click and you can drag whatever you want onto the desktop. And once it's there, you have a whole bunch of options that you can do with it. You can move it around to where you want it to. You can right-click on it, and you can edit the text. And they didn't put the menu numbers on it. So if I was doing it, because I'm an old Master Builder user from way back, I would change it to be something like that, 3.5. I would take off the part that says accounts receivable, okay? And then, receivable clients or whatever you want to put over there. And since it brings over the icons that you currently have on your desktop, the only thing that you may want to do is start, linking together and modify things. So let's talk about that. We have this button down here, and that's the selection, okay? So when that's highlighted, then you can click on an icon and move it. When you click on this next one, and I'm going to give you guys a grid that's going to show you all of these edit tools and how they work. So you'll notice that it gives you like a little prompt here, too. Move tasks or add tasks, and it also gives you a prompt when you hover over it. Let's click this one, okay? It's telling you the first action that you should take is select a starting point, okay? So you select the starting point, and then you select the end point. So it actually gives you the instructions down here in addition to telling you what it's letting you do, okay? And I like that one. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what does the linking do? What does the line do? I don't know. We got a question. Maybe one of you. Okay, Patty, is that from before, Ashley, or is that still from?
Yes, I believe it's before, but we do have a question from John Davis. He wants to know, can we upload and use customized icons?
No. Sorry. I've been asked that too, but I think that's a great idea, and I think one of my clients says that they don't like the faceless people. So, we'll have to figure that out, John. I haven't figured it out yet. But the icons have got to be located someplace, so I'll have to, maybe you guys all want me to email you when I find them. I haven't found them yet. So, any other questions, Ashley? Okay.
I don't see any.
So one of the questions that somebody asked is, well, what does the line do? It doesn't do anything. It's just graphical. It just tells you the process in the process map. Okay. When you click on this button, Sage 100 Contractor is going to try to automatically create the process map for you when you add a new item. So let's go into the same section and let's drag and drop a new item over, and it's going to put the line in for you. Okay? Sometimes it does a good job of it, and sometimes not so much. It kind of depends on what you put in there. Like if you put something like, I was playing around with it the other day, if you put something like utilities, equipment is not connected to progress billing. So, that's why I personally wouldn't use that much. I would probably use the manual connection, but I guess they figure that why would you put that on the process map and want to connect it? And the reason is most of my clients put, on home and are going to put home and resources to all the tasks that they do, and they don't necessarily, want to connect them together. So if we do something silly like that, and something happens like that, how do you get rid of it? Well, it's this item here. Okay. Once you click on it, whatever you click on, and it's going to highlight and tell you what it's going to get rid of. It's going to click on, and it's going to get rid of everything that's highlighted. Okay. So if I click on this, it gets rid of the equipment icon, and it gets rid of the line, the connection line. If I click on this, it gets rid of that and its corresponding line. I think we have another question, Ashley. So, or Thomas is raising his hand. What can I do for you? Nope. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. I think that's really, really well done. I think that's really intuitive and really easy to use, and I think they gave us a really, really nice way of doing it. And I like the lines showing between things if things are connected to each other. I think it's going to be really nice for new users, and also this is going to be nice for new users. When you click on the box and you decide to put a box around something, and I think people are going to use it even more, like on the home and resources, it puts a box around the items that are connected to each other and allows you to visually kind of group them together. If you add a couple of other icons out there, and let me just go ahead and pull equipment out again and, put a group around that one, then this line is the line that allows you to click between groups, if you would. And it's a little bit clunky because you got to make, if you want to make a corner, you have to do it yourself. But you can just, play around with it a little bit like I did, and it, I'm a little bit off pixels, but it shows how two things are connected to each other. Okay, so anybody have any questions on that? Any comments on using those tools? Because I'm going to go over to these now. Okay, once you've put your icons out there, or you've gone over to a tab and you're messing around with it, and you decide that you screwed it up or you don't like it, okay? Now you can undo some tasks, which I just deleted the equipment, and you can, it steps you back, okay? So that's pretty nice. I'm going to redo it again. And it's pretty easy to get add your things or take your things off. You can clear them all instead of clicking on the undo. You can clear them all, or you can restore the way that it originally was. So in this case, the original desktop is empty. So if I click on restore, everything goes away. And then you can decide whether you want to save that menu or you want to cancel and get out of it. Either one of these options, in addition to doing the action of save or cancel, also closes the little edit screen so that you can get out of it. Okay? Now, I think let's go over here and edit this for a second. If I do a clear all on this one, a couple of people have called me because they're freaking out. This is when you want to use the restore. Okay? And it puts it back the way that it was. I have my screen resolution fairly high so that you guys are fairly low, I guess on your perspective, fairly low, so that you guys can see my screen. But the new Sage 100 Contractor is intended to be used on a little bit higher screen resolution. And if you do, then those won't, you won't have to scroll. But if you put as many icons as some people have, maybe you want to. Okay, so any questions now on adding icons, moving things around? Because I want to talk about adding report icons. Okay, somebody has a question? Where is the edit icon? The edit icon is a right click. If I can do that. The edit icon is you have to get into edit mode, and then it's a right click, edit text. And as soon as you do that, it opens it up, regardless if it's one of the task icons that Sage 100 Contractor creates, or it's one that you created. You can edit them regardless. You can also see where the item is coming from. I should probably mention that too. If you hover over the item, hang on a second. Let's see. I can get it to do it. My hovering is not working, Ashley. That's irritating. So typically, when you hover over the icon, it tells you which menu option it is as well. Okay. So then, how do you get reports out here? Let's talk about that. Let's go into. Let's take a receivables list. So in this case, you don't edit it by clicking on edit. You open up the report printing screen, and then this is the menu. And whatever report you have over here, it's going to ask you where you want to put it. So in this case, I'm going to say clients and service. I'm going to click that button, and now I've got and it places it where wherever it wants to, and then you can just take it, click on the edit mode, and move it around to wherever you want it to be. Okay? And, of course, rename it. If you decide to rename it, you can call it the special name, you know, like Andrea's. I could spell my own name. So it allows you to put quite a bit in there, too, and it fits nicely. It doesn't have that, and it shows all the time. So that's really nice. I really like that. Okay, another question. Let's see, can we make a master for several users, such as salespeople, that you can make them all at once instead of having to go to each desktop to set it up? Carrie, that's a great question. I have not seen where you can make a master yet unless all of them logged in as the same user. And even then, if you're on remote desktop, the user that you're logging in affects it. So as far as I know, you can't make a master. You have to do each one individually. But that's a great question. I'm going to keep all your questions if all of you don't mind. I'm going to make a copy of them all because Sage has been asking me for feedback on this, and these are great. Can you show reports in multiple tabs? Tiffany, do you mean the different activity centers? Can you show the same report in multiple activity centers? Let's see if I can take you off of mute. And yes, okay. Yes, you can. So let's go ahead and do that. So if we have say the job list, let's go ahead and save that. Let's take the same one, except we're going to come in here now. Well, actually, you don't have to move to the tab, except I wanted to show it to you. You can add that same report, right? Is that what you're talking about, Tiff? If she answers me. It's irritating not to be able to hear you guys. Okay. Yep. Okay. So if you, hang on a second. Get the I'm learning how to use this. You guys are learning Master Builder, and I'm learning how to do the webinar. I use GoToMeeting all the time, but I don't use the webinar all the time, so thanks for your patience on that. Okay, I want to be able to see your questions. Okay, let's go to the next thing. So reports are a little bit different, but I think it's just as easy, and you can decide which tab you want to put them on. Okay, we've already talked about renaming the icons. We've already talked about showing and hiding the menus and customizing your menus. Okay, so now I want to get to some screen changes, and I talk about screen changes in kind of two different sections: minor screen changes and what I call major screen changes. So I have give me just a second here. I have a picture of the, second, because I don't have Sage Master Builder on this screen, so we're going to come over here. Let's go into the AR invoice, and I'm going to preview that. You guys can just see right on your screen the difference between the two. So this is what I consider minor changes, and I'm happy to kind of make a list of them all, but I think they're pretty easy to understand, and I've included this one. I've included this one in the sample of in the course material that you guys are going to get. So you can see here that that the location of the fields is different. So we go invoice number, description, job, phase, tax district. Okay. So for all of you, I know, Tiffany, for you, for example, you really blaze when you enter invoices, and so it's going to be, you're going to have to watch yourself just a little bit, because instead of doing the invoice and the date, Now you've got invoice description job. And I think it's really logical the way they did it, even though it's going to be a little bit of, getting used to. They put all the dates in the same place over here. And so but pretty much everything else is the same. So you can see the, the differences here, and I don't think they're a huge amount. I think it makes a lot more sense in a way. They've moved the reference number, but that's not going to be a big deal. I think when people are keying stuff in, the biggest thing for me is having the invoice date in a separate location. And they've done that on the accounts payable invoice and a couple of the other places, purchase orders. And so those kinds of minor changes are fairly easy to understand, although it'll get you out of your rhythm as you're entering stuff. So be aware of it. The other thing that you can see that they've done is they have changed all the icons. It's a very updated look and feel. And so the old one, the old icon, let's see if I can zoom this up a little bit and pull this in here for you so that you can see it. Move it down. Okay, so here's the old toolbar. Here's the old toolbar, and here's the new toolbar. So the order is still the same. Everything is still the same. It's just a little bit more updated and up to date. If you look at this field right here, where you have the job, you'll see that this is not the little box anymore, and the down arrow is still there, but now it's like a little curly arrow. But I think it's really self-explanatory. What else you'll notice is the required fields now are an asterisk instead of being blue. And so you can still tell which ones they are, but now they're not blue, they're an asterisk. And they also took away the exit menu item and made it more Windows compliant. The exit is still there, but now it's under the exit under the file, which is a typical Windows thing. I just clicked on the escape button. I've been asked that question, and if you'll notice that as soon as I click on escape, it disappears. So that still works. So a lot of people are, I'm really used to clicking the exit button because I'm on GoToMeeting all the time, and I can't see the exit at the top on the other side. So I use the exit button, but most of you, it'll probably be something that's just minor. Okay? Now let's talk about major changes. So here's the current Sage Master Builder. If we can make it a little bit bigger. Sage Master Builder job screen. And this is the one where they've made some more significant changes. Okay? I don't think it's as much. There's still 3 tabs, but now all of this information is on the general information tab. Okay? Instead of it being contacts, now it's contacts, contacts and personnel, and project dates. So they've moved everything around. But I think it's a lot more logical, and I agree with them. I think it makes more sense. It's not as scary to people as the old one was because it's not so much information in one place. But it does take you a little bit of getting used to. Another one, and we'll be discussing this in a few minutes about the changes that they made in the vendor screen, is they have added a whole bunch more tabs to the vendor screen and actually made them tabs. So let's go forward and look at the vendor screen. I have all the different screens in here so I can send them to you. So the vendor screen, remember the tabs were up here? All of you know the tabs are up here. Well, now you have all of these tabs going across for all the different pieces of information, including ACH payment, which I'll get to in a second. You can now send vendors payments just like you do your upload of direct deposits for payroll. You can do the same thing for vendor payments, which is really nice. And we'll go over that in a second. So those are the screens that I think you may have to do a little bit of training with your people or looking at things. Some employees are freaked out. I think, Carrie, you've told me in the past that your people freak out when there's changes, so you may want to just, take what I've given you and the course material I've given you today and maybe go over that with them. So there's also a couple of new menu items. If you come in here, you'll see under the 431 screen, there's an ACH payment file manager, and we'll be talking about dealing with that in a few minutes, but I just wanted to show you changes to the interface. And then down under review and reporting, there is a search report. So that is the overview of how to deal with the changes to the interface. Anybody have any other questions on that? I'm going to go into a couple of screens. Oh, I forgot one. I'm wrong. Go into one more. And this one I really like. If you're in purchase orders, I'm just using this as an example. Okay? It used to be when you would go into any kind of purchase order or anything like that where you had to look up multiple items. And I don't care if it's purchase orders or cost codes. Maybe I should use the cost code screen here and show it to you. I mean, cost codes and budgets. Wherever you had a situation where you were doing multiple lookups, okay? In the past, you had this down arrow, and you had to go to display pick list window first. If you just clicked on lookup window and not display pick list window, you couldn't do the multiple selections, okay? Now, it doesn't matter which one you're in, okay? If you forget and you go to just the regular one, which is just the click on the arrow or clicking on this one, you can switch to the multiple pick list window without having to leave and go back in the screen. And it works just the same way that it always did, and maybe some of you didn't even know that was there, so maybe you'll learn something here. But you can click on Insert All Items, or you can insert the selected items. And when you go to selected items, it's just, you can either double-click, you can right-click, and you can drag, or I'm sorry, left-click and drag, or you can shift-click. But whichever ones are red, when you click the button, it adds them all at the same time. And so I think that's a really nice enhancement. There's so many enhancements, I'm not sure, Ashley, if I'm going to get through all these. Okay. So go to another one that everybody likes so far. I've entered a sample accounts receivable invoice, but I posted it and I got wrong. So would anybody want to chat with me what the normal process is? It's like copy, and then void, and then paste, make the changes, and save. And you can't find the original invoice that you voided. That's all changed. You take any piece of this and you want to make a change to it by double-clicking on it to get into the screen. I'll let you sit there and look at that. It says you're attempting to edit a posted transaction. Do you want to unlock the transaction fields for editing? To maintain an audit trail, the system automatically makes all of the updates for you. That's basically what this says. You can read it for yourself the next time. So I'm going to say yes. And now I know that this is link 41, the one that was changed, and I'll go back and see. And so I'm going to decide that I just wanted to change the description to whatever sample one, and I want to make it $650 instead of $500. Okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now let's go back to this one. I am now sitting on this one, and I can come right up here, and I can look at the related record. Okay? I can see which one it's related to. Record number 42 is related to record number 41, and I can go in and open up 41, and you'll see it's been voided. So that whole process of copy, paste, save has all been automated, and it's all done behind the scenes. You won't even notice. It's still happening, but you won't notice. It's just a single click. So it's going to speed everything up a lot. Yay! And then if you want to go and find it, you don't have to go search for it. remember where the original record was. So that's a big, huge thing in my world too. Okay. Any questions on editing posted transactions? And I'm going over, this is the global feature section. So that's a global feature, although it doesn't happen in every single screen. It only happens in the 1.3, the 3.2, the 4.2, and the 11.2. Okay, basically transaction screens. And then I would have, you guys must pay attention, because I would have thought someone would have asked me, who gets to do that? Ah, here we go. We're getting a question. Yay. Okay. Does the edit feature work in other areas as well? Only the, only in those 3 screens, Felice. Okay. And security does apply. The biggest question I get on this is, can anybody do it? No. You must be either a supervisor user, or you have to have the right to both save and void the transaction. And you also can't do it if you couldn't do it normally now. In other words, if you had a payment applied to the if you had a payment applied to that AR invoice that I just did, you would not be able to void it. Either way, this is the best part of the new program. Woo! Who else thinks that? Who else agrees with Felice? I do too, Felice. I think that's awesome.
Andrea, I do have a question from Peggy.
Yes.
She wants to know, is it possible to change posting period when editing?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then Carrie also has another question. Is report writer and design editing changed? Will custom reports still work the same?
Custom reports still work the same, but now it's I'll show you in a few minutes. Everything's the same on the report writer, and custom reports will be just fine. They haven't changed it like they did, I think, version 15, which was a really huge problem. But now, in addition to when I get down here and talk about search reports, remind me to tell you there's some really cool new features having to do with custom reports on there as well. Anything else, Ashley?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay, continuing on, trying to go fast because we're almost out of the hour. So if anybody wants to stay, there's just so much new stuff. Okay, setting up job security. You now can set up security on a job so that certain users can only see certain jobs, and it applies to every single screen in the entire program. And the way that you set it up is you come in to set up the user list, and the first thing you have to do is set up whether that person is subject to job security or not. And if a person is subject to job security and they are not added to a particular job, they will not be able to see that job. But if somebody is not set up to be subject to job security, they'll be able to see all jobs. Okay? That's the most common question I get about that. So let's go into the job screen. See, I'm trying to learn to use those process maps. There is a new field called Job Access List. And the 4 people that I had set up, let's go back over here. The 4 people that I had set up over here are going to show up in this list when I go here. And you can decide who you want to assign to this job. And remember, this is different than like setting up security, that when nobody is checked, everyone can see something. This is specifically, at this point now, only Ginger, that's the only job Ginger will have access to. Okay? So it only applies, and none of these other users will be able to see this job. Jenny, Josh, and Scott will not be able to see this job. Only Ginger will be able to see this job. And it's the only, well, I spoke wrong, because if you have Ginger assigned to other jobs, of course, she'll be able to see them. I don't think I do in here. So, yeah, that's the only one Ginger is assigned to. So that's the only job that you'll be able to see. And it's on the queries, it's on reports, it permeates the whole system. You'll have to try it because it's just, for those of you that have project managers and you don't want one project manager looking at each other's information, when they run job reports, it is honored. Even in, I went in and played around with this, even when you go into the 1-3 screen and you look at, let's go into that receivable invoice that I just did, and you go to the transaction. I don't know if all of you know, but this shows the job in the grid. They just blank out the line in the grid if you're logged in as, if you're not logged in as that person. So most people can't see, project managers can't see the 1-3 screen, but if they can, then it hides it from them if they can drill down to it. Yes, we have a question. Yes, but people who are not subject to the limitation can still see everything. Yes, Tiffany. Okay. So Tiffany, is that something that you guys are going to use in your situation? Who all is going to use that? Is that a feature? Okay, Thomas. The two Thomases. Thomas Roche, I don't know you, but I know my Thomas, right? Thomas 1 and Thomas 2. Okay. All right. So any other questions on that? That's pretty straightforward. Okay. Over budget, over purchase order, and over subcontract warning. It depends on which screen that you want to. It's available in the 661, the 671, the 32 under the cost over warning budget. So I'm going to go into all of those. Let's go in and let's come in and look at that. So here is the set purchase order over budget warning. And I made a list of all the places that this is located so you guys can go and look at it. The screen is the same for all of them. And so depending on what you want to do, this comes in really, really handy. So if you come in here and you say, give me a warning and make sure it's a flat amount, or give me a warning and it's a percentage, okay? Or give me a warning and a percent not to exceed. And you see how the fields open up down here depending on which item that you choose up above. And so you can set this up. Now, this isn't specifically for this purchase order. This is generic to the whole system. And it will warn you when you're entering, accounts payable invoice or whatever the situation is. Mainly accounts payable invoices, but it could be a journal transaction as well. So anything that you're posting any kind of job cost. And that is the one place that it is, and then the other place is on the subcontracts. Set it up, and I'll go over some of these. So it's the same exact screen, and then where it's maybe not as apparent, if you go into the 3-2 screen and you go into, if you have job costs in here, then it'll come up in here. That's not a very commonly used one, but it's also in the 4-2, which I think is a little bit more commonly used. All right. Any questions on setting up warnings? Okay. Payroll direct deposit email. I'm going to go over this briefly, and then I can get more into detail if any of you think, is there anybody in the group that is going to send emails to their employees for direct deposit? I'll wait for hands. I still have 2 hands up. Carrie, you're going to do it? Thomas still has his hand up. Let me clear all the hands up, and then maybe if everybody could say, because I don't want to go into a topic that not all of you are interested in. So Thomas, maybe I'll just briefly go over it, and then you and I, and that Colleen, are you interested in the payroll direct deposit? So there are 2 of you. Or was that a mistake? Okay. So let's go over it briefly. So So you now have the ability to attach an email to the pay stub, and it's a different setting. So it's not a setting right in the main. You know how you have an email sitting here? That is not the place that the email is that is going to be emailed. That's my number one question is, well, I already have my email set up. Does it use the same email? No, it uses a separate one. So we have a question. Okay. All right. Okay. So this direct deposit email has to be filled out for that feature. It does it just like any other printing. It prints it as a PDF and attaches it to the email, just like if you were to go and do a regular printing and print to Outlook. The difference is that it uses the last 4 digits of the Social Security number as a password when the person that is going to get the email on the other side. Okay? When you set up and you run payroll for that person now that you put that email address in there, then a message displays that you have, as you run payroll and you print checks, a message is going to display as you go and do the direct deposit whether you want to send an email or not. So it's basically just a message, and it tells you so-and-so employee, and it gives you the name of the employee, is set up to receive pay stubs by email. Do you want to send it to them now? And you have a decision of whether you want to do it. And it does it one at a time as it's processing those emails. It saves all that information. It creates a PDF file. It saves it in the temp file. It gives it what's on the subject is the company name, the employee name, the check date, and a timestamp. Okay, and it just, you may get a prompt. I don't know if any of you use the email out of Sage 100 Contractor, but that same little prompt will pop up. You know, do you want to allow it or whatever. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, I'm happy to get into it with any of you. Hang on a second. Okay. Let's go in. So I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of doing that in the spirit of getting this done. I think that more people, I don't know, I don't have a single client, Ashley, that is going to email to their employees. None of their employees have emails. So, anyway, okay. Now you can pay, as I mentioned earlier, you can pay your vendors with ACH through an upload file, just like you do for payroll, for direct deposit for payroll. And you can group a whole bunch of them, and you can send them up there at the same time and pay them all electronically. A lot of people are wanting electronic payments now. So I think this one is going to be really popular. So you have to set up 2 pieces of it. One piece is setting up on the vendor screen. And I have vendor number 125 set up so you can see kind of what that looks like. And so in here, you have to click Enable ACH Payment. You have to have it active. You pick where you're going to be pulling it from, which is either, you know, what their account type is. I mean, not pulling it, but what their account type is, and the routing number and their the bank that it's going to go to. So that's the vendor side of the setup. Your side of the setup is in the same place that you set up for direct deposit. And here's the payroll for direct deposit screen, and you can see the screen has changed a little bit, so it's not a scroll anymore. You can see everything at once. The first time you come into this screen, and you click on, I think it's just when you come into it, it'll ask you if you want to automatically take all these settings and change them over to this, okay? The only thing that doesn't copy over, and you can see, is this field right here, because when you're doing the checks, you have to pick which checking account, which account you're going to post to. So it's not going to work. It's not going to work like it does now, where you pick it when you go to print the check, because this is actually creating the file, and it's telling you which cash account it's being posted to. So you have to set it up in this screen. and that's usually not a problem because people don't usually have multiple ACH accounts for multiple accounts. But if you did, maybe this wouldn't work for you. So you set that up, and then when you go to pay something, and so I have this vendor payments, and let me go ahead and take vendor number 125 and display the invoice, and you can see that I have an invoice in here, so let me just go ahead and set it to pay for $60. Now when I go into pay, you can see that I have a new column, and it's called ACH available. It doesn't mean that you have to pay by ACH, by the upload file, but you can if you want to. And if you do decide to do ACH, then you have to do this ACH pay by ACH payment. And then it just goes through the pay vendor, and it brings up what should be, which should be familiar to all of you that use the payroll direct deposit. Put in the transaction date and the deposit date, and then it creates the file. So if we want to go ahead and take just a second, hang on a second. 28. I can't do it and talk at the same time. You can create the file, and it tells you, gives me some warning messages because my data is messed up. And the reason I wanted to bring you out here is I wanted to show you something. And this has been the thing that I've had the most questions on this particular item. I think probably that, and I guess probably can I change the account? There's now 2 folders. When you do the install, all of your regular direct deposit files, if you use them for payroll, are going to be out in here, and this sits still in the same direct deposit folder. They're not going to move into the payroll folder. Okay? So that's been really confusing for people. You can move them yourself by coming out here and just snatching them up and moving them into the payroll folder, but there's 2 folders now. There's one for vendors, and there's one for payroll. So we have a question, Ashley, or everybody?
We do. We do have a question from Janice. She says, going back to payroll, can you still send copies of the pay stubs even if you are not using direct deposit?
Yes. Yep. That's a really good question. It will ask you if you want well, that's just a regular printout of the system. So you can send copies by email, but just by printing it twice. So Janice, that's a great question. I'll show you how to do that the next time we get together. Put that on your list for me. Okay, so now the file has been created, and you want to email the person that you did. Okay, and so it comes over here, and you can decide whether or not you want to send it out. I'm going to go ahead and print this to the screen so that you can say, so this is the report. And then if your person was set up to email, there would be an email sent out to the first contact on that vendor list. Okay? So I have all those prompts for you, and you guys got to do play with it and try it. I think we have another question. Guess not. Oh, Janice, you're telling me you'll do it. Yay! Okay. All right. And at the end, I'm going to have a whole bunch of time for any of you to ask any questions. I'm trying to get this done in an hour. Ashley, I'm really going. I feel like I'm out of breath.
We do have another question. Thomas wants to know, if I use a payroll service company or lease my payroll, do I still need to set up my employees with ACH?
No. That was an easy one.
And then there's one more question from Patty. When checks get cut, why is there a 50-item limitation?
Because of the length of the stub, the actual physical paper length of the stub. And so, Patty, that's why you can print, when you go to pay vendors, you can do this print checks transmittal. It's just because otherwise it would print on to the next check and you would waste a check. So you can come in here and you can print your checks transmittal. And when you print this, you can tell it how many, what the number of invoices will fit on your stub. And if yours are 50 or line items, they'll fit on your stub. So is that what you're asking, or the number? I think that's what she was asking. Did I answer it, Patty? And if we can go over it later. I don't know. I think actually that maybe they're muted on the phone call. They need to hit, what, *6 or something to unmute themselves. I think we can unmute them, but maybe they can unmute the phone too. So hopefully we can get to actually talking to them here at the end. Okay. So, all right. The last thing that I have in this section before we get to the all the service stuff is talking about search and reports. And Carrie, were you the one that was asking me about searching the custom reports? Because this is just really a nice feature. So when you first open it up, it's this new menu I showed you. Okay? When you first open it up, you can just type a word in here. You know, a real common one would be job. And you can then search on it, and every single report that has job in it is going to show up. Yay! And a little preview of it over here. Okay? But this is probably way too overwhelming, especially if you use the word job, because there's 466 reports that have job in it somewhere. In actually job, actually in the header, or job in the title, or job someplace. Okay? So that's when you probably want to use this other search options and kind of filter it down a little bit. You can still use job up here if you want, but now you have some different options. You can search based upon anything where the data is coming out of a particular thing. For instance, you know, I'm getting the information out of the job screen, okay, and only bring the information. Well, hang on a second. I actually have to click it. So I can say pull that the job number only when the job number is included. Okay, that's going to cut down the number of reports to 121 from 466. But then you can also say, I only want it where it's limited to a particular part of the program. Now we've only got 44 reports. So be careful how you use them, because you may not get all the reports. But also, it's really nice that you can pull up these different features. Do you want to search calculated fields? Okay, because a lot of reports have calculated fields. You might get a whole lot. We had 44 on the last one, and we have 94 for searching the calculated fields. So you got to kind of play around with this just to get a little bit of a feel for how it is. But now, for people that are brand new, I don't know if Martha's still with us. I think she's gone. But this, I think, is really going to help people that are new. Janice, this will help you because you'll be able to find the reports you're looking for. Of course, you can still, go into the menu itself. But once you run this report, to actually get in and run the report, now all you have to do is double click, and it brings up, yay, it brings up the report, where it is in the report for you without having to get out and go in. And if this isn't what you really wanted, you could go and pull something else up. Okay? So obviously these are in the same menu item, but it will actually move over to the right section. So you don't have to go look for it. It'll look for it for you. Okay, so that is pretty much, I'm 14 minutes over, Ashley, an hour. So I appreciate you guys. Let me bring up my PowerPoint. And who's going to stay? Looks like we have some more questions, but who's going to stay? Here's my contact information again. If you want to email me with your questions, I will do my best to answer them for you. And I'll maybe even call you. And if you're a client of mine, just make a list and we'll go over them in our next meeting. For Thomas and Janice, I will now install the Sage 100 Contractor for you on your server, now that you know how to use it. So, Ashley, do we have any more questions? It looks like that we do, but it's hard for me to tell.
Let me see. I know that I'm not sure if Patty's question was completely answered about her checks.
Okay.
She did respond that the system's only letting her cut checks 50. She can only cut 50 checks at a time now.
Oh, so it's the number of checks that she can cut at a time. Interesting. I'd have to look at that, Patty. Why don't you email me, because I haven't heard of a 50 check limit. As far as I know, you can cut as many checks as you want. So why don't you send me, or I've got your email address here. Why don't we just set up a time and I'll give you 5 minutes and I'll look at it for you and see if I can figure out what's going on. Or that's some interesting information to have. But I really do mean it. You guys can certainly email me. I'll leave this up here for a second, and then the people that are going to stay, we're going to dive into the service module. And oh my gosh, so be ready, because there's like a huge amount of changes. And Ashley, I'd sure like to see if we could get all of them on audio, since I think there's only 4 of them that are going to stay, or maybe everybody wants to. Okay, so let's dive into the service module, because there's just a lot to go over. Okay. Okay, so the first change that has been made is something I really like, and that is that now when you go in service types, and Tiffany, I don't know if you want to sit in the meeting, because I don't see anybody from Plumbing Plus that's in this meeting. They should have, because this is, there's enough changes in here. I don't think you can find them yourself. But it now has added a new field and giving you the ability to put a color on the dispatch board for a particular type of invoice type. That is like huge. This is huge for my clients. So as you click on this, also you'll see that the color selection has been greatly expanded. I think in the past it was, oh my gosh, I don't know how many exact number of colors, but there was something like only a 10 or something like that. And the only place you got them was in the service area screen. So Carrie, this is going to be, there were 15. There were 15 colors. And I don't know how many there are now, but a lot, a couple hundred. So you're going to be, I have a lot more flexibility, because this is not just in this field, but it's in the other fields. And I'll show you how this pans out when you get to the dispatch board in just a second. So, so that color picker now is on the type. So let's go into the dispatch board and let's actually pull up a item so that you can actually see. And let me do one day. So there, the color on that one was red. And so now you not only have this little bar up here that shows you the area it is and what priority it is, that it's prompt or urgent or whatever, and we'll get into this in a second, but the actual item itself can be a different color. And it looks like all of these are red. Let's see, oh, there's the one that's black. So you can choose even black, because it changes it to white text. Questions on that? Looks like we got questions. Do we have questions, Ashley? Thought I saw one flashing. Okay.
I don't see
any.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to figure that one out, Ashley. You're going to have to help me with that one, because it looks like it's flashing on my side, and then it says it's flashing, and there must be a delay or something. Okay. So the color picker now is in a place that you've never had it before, which is on the type. So the one that was black was this electrical, and the one with the red was the service one. So now you can set up, based on that, a lot of the people that I work with are setting up more service types, even though they have the same cash account, income account, and everything else, just because of the color now that shows up on the screen. Okay, so now let's go into the priorities, because in the past, when you were in the priority screen, you could not change the color except to one of those. Well, actually, you couldn't change the color at all. you could only change the color for the service area. So now you can actually change the color instead of just the standard 5 emergency, urgent, prompt, low, and hold. You now can make them whatever you wanted them to be. This is people that I work with have been asking for this forever and a day. You can come in here and you can make the label whatever you want, and instead of 5 different priorities, there are now 8 different priorities. And you can choose the color on the priorities the same that you do for the type. And for the 2, you can even change the label on the system description in the prompt. So I can say, you know, like you do if you were going to F7, and I can type this in here, okay? And so now this is called sample, and this is called whatever, okay? So that's all under this lookup button, which wasn't even there before. That's totally new. It gives you a lot more flexibility. Okay. Just like with any other labeling of fields and stuff like that, I did want to also mention that it is only the supervisor that can get in there and change that. So not just any person, because that would be havoc. I've been asked that question before. Okay, I'm in a supervisor user. So okay, another one that's going to be a huge hit is this one right here. Copy or repeat records. So you now have the ability to actually copy or repeat records. So instead of using the copy and paste, which copies everything, including all of the order number and the invoice number and all that stuff, and then you have to go in and remember to change it, you now have the ability to copy the record. Oh, it's going to make me do my changes. So let's go ahead and say copy or repeat this record. And when it copies it, it's only copying the areas of the items that are not typically unique between different ones. And I'll show you the copy here in a second. But the order number, the invoice number, that kind of thing, the date would be you know, the new date. You can copy it one time. So let's go ahead and do that. This is the copy. And did you see how it went from 26 to 27 and it went to the current date? Of course, everything is open. If I had anything on the invoice details, it would have brought that information over. But they've gone over pretty carefully to kind of zero out, if you would, or update the things that it's very that you would want to make unique for each record. It's very much similar to the templates that how templates work, except that it's copying a specific one instead of having to set up a template. So it lets you copy the information like the client information and things like that. So that makes me really happy. Okay, so I have to put stuff in the schedule date. It's going to make me, okay, let's go back to 26. Whoops, go back to 26. Okay, now let's go to the other option, copy or repeat. Okay, so now I can say that I want to copy this every day, and I want to do it for 5 days. Or I want to copy it for every week, and I want to do for 5 weeks. Or I want to copy it for once a month, and I want to do it for 12 months. So I think that I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to do it because you'll see that it does. Well, I guess I could, and it will put up in here the actual ones that were created. Did you see that? So it created this one. It created that one a month later, that one a month after it, that one a month. So make sure that the one that you're copying, that you want to key off the date of that one, because it uses the date to decide which is the copies, what ones it's going to make, and it increments those copies forward. Okay, and it actually puts in the schedule date because that's a required field. So I think that's a really, really nice feature that all of you are going to like. Okay, so let's go back a few. I'm just going to go ahead.
Andrea, we do have And I apologize.
Okay.
We do have another question, and you might have already addressed it. Carrie wants to know, can you put a default info, can you put a default into what tabs show up automatically on 11.2 main screen?
No. Nope, but that's a great question because it depends on what's in the screen, Carrie. When you come into the screen, if you come in, it comes in on the location one. But as you go, if you open up, if you're sitting here, it'll stay on the invoice details tab. So you do have to click it because I think for you just want to go in to the invoice details tab, I believe. So that's what you're saying, right? Is which one of these tabs show up? I've been asked that on the jobs as well. So is there a way of copying all the questions, Ashley, when we get done, or no?
Yes, I'll make sure that you get them.
Okay, that'd be great because I'd like to forward some of those on to Angela at Sage. She's asked me for input, so
yeah, of course.
That has come up on the job screen now that there's 3 tabs. Some people always want to come into the contact tab and have it be user specific. I've had enough people ask for that, Carrie. I have a feeling that given the great advancements we've seen or enhancements we've seen on this one, they're really, really listening to us. I feel that way. I feel like I've been giving them comments and suggestions for years, and this time they've actually listened. So they don't have everything, but they've done a really good job of it. Okay. So did that answer that, Carrie? I guess the short answer was no. Okay. So from the options menu again, now you have some posting options that you have the ability to do, okay, and that you can set up. And as you know, right now it uses the current date as the invoice date, so that's the one that's defaulted. This is also another big thing that people have been asking for in service. They want, use the existing records. I think this is the one, or enter it. Okay, so right now, Master Builder defaults to this one, and you don't get to choose. Going forward, you have 3 choices, and I think that pretty much covers everything from the things that people have asked me about. So I think this is going to be a very nice one too. Okay, and then that is the main ones on the work order. So now let's go over to the dispatch board. If you all know that on the dispatch board, that in the past, to get into the dispatch board in a edit mode, not a read-only mode, you had to come in from the service invoice. You had to come up here and you had to go in here. You can still do that, but now you can go directly into the dispatch board if you have the security rights to edit it. You have the ability to get directly into the dispatch board, and so you don't have to go through the service invoice. You can if you want to, but you don't have to go through it anymore. And so it's called direct launch, where depending on your security settings is depending on how it's going to open. And so you need to make sure that I mention it specifically, because if you're used to people just not being able to get in and using security to lock them out by just being able to depend on the 1.3, you need to make sure that you've got things set up correctly so they can't edit things. Okay? All right. So another thing is an automatic refresh. I can't really show it to you because I don't have a second person, entering items on the dispatch board right now, but it can be set up under the settings screen to automatically refresh under the preferences tab. You can automatically refresh it, and you can decide how often you want to refresh the information. So it's this setting right here, enable real-time dispatch board updates, and as long as that's checked, then anytime somebody adds something, it will appear on your screen automatically. And like I said, I can't really show it to you, but it looks great. Okay. So now, kind of while we're in this screen here, they've laid out the this default board preferences, and you guys already know about the preferences screen from your current system. But all of the settings are now laid out. You have we're going to talk about warning on overbooking. I'm going to show you how the overbooking works in a second. But you can customize, and you'll see over here. Okay, you can customize all the customizations and everything from here. This used to be on the screen, but it was you had to scroll down. It wasn't as easy to see, I guess. So it gives you a lot more. It was kind of on the bottom. Let's see if I remember. It was on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. This is the part where you lay out the board, and then this is what displays on the work order. Now, in the past, everybody was asking for client purchase order, service area, work order priority, notes, and equipment. So, yay, we've got notes. That's my number one. Why can't we see notes when we go on the thing? And I'll show you here in a second. We also have notes when you dispatch on the dispatch setup. So there's a whole bunch of new things. And again, the client purchase order, service area, work order priority, location notes, and equipment. So that you can do well overall. Equipment isn't on this one to display, but the one location note has been added. So this screen's pretty nice. It's tabbed, and it's a lot easier to use. Okay, so I was going to show you the overbooking. Let's take this one and let's overbook it. Now you've got them side by side, and they're overbooked. It's now red in the header. You can take this and you can move it and you can change it, but if you move it back, then it's overbooked. Okay? And it warns you. It gives you a message about that. And it turns this red over here. So now you'll be able to see at a glance which ones are overbooked. And even if you show in the 5 days, it's still like a little tiny bar, and it tells you the day that's overbooked and that it's red, so that it really, even when it's tiny, and it's you're scroll down, you got to get pretty small to not see the red header. I guess you can see it when it even is tiny, and I think that's the point, okay? So that you can see it clearly. I think that's a really nice enhancement. Okay. Another one that is really column setup. Okay? So let's come in here. And the first thing that I saw when I came in here, and I didn't read everything, but the first thing I saw was, woohoo! I have one specific client this is going to be huge for. I have to remember to call him, because they use vendors to do the work, and they do it through the service module. You can now put a vendor in here, okay? And so in this column, you put an E if it's an employee, you put a V if it's a vendor, and then depending on if this is an employee or vendor, it changes out which lookup view you're going to get. So if I click on this arrow here, it gets me the employees. If I click on the arrow here, it gets me the vendors, okay? Now, if the vendor is not in the list, let's just put in this. Oops, so vendor is in there. Okay, let's put ZZZ. Okay. Okay, so you have to put the number in. So if you want to add a new one, you can add a new one. You can also go into the detail list and then add, next record number 833. So it works the same as all the other screens in Master Builder, which is really nice. Now, there is no naming convention for the vendors. So what Sage is recommending and what they have in the sample company is that for the vendors that display in the columns, and let's go over here, that these vendors have like an asterisk or some way that you can tell the difference between the two. There is no color difference or anything. It's just what you type in the name. So in this particular situation, they just typed an asterisk. You could put a V in front of it. You could put a V dash. It's got to be something short because the name is short. Okay? But you can add the email to that person, so you can email dispatch. You can email work orders to them just like you can your regular technician. Okay? So let's go into the email setup. And here's the enhancements in here I was talking about earlier. Before, you couldn't take over, all of the the equipment information and stuff like that. So now you've got not only the work order notes, but you've got the location notes. You've got the priority, the customer purchase order, and the equipment. And if you add the equipment, it kind of adds all of the, it adds all the equipment items, but you can take them out. If you add this one, it adds everything, and then you can go in and you can take out the pieces that you want. So those additional fields are really welcome. Okay, that's it. Whew. Okay, Ashley, I'm out of breath. I had to go really fast to get that done. I was going to try to get done in an hour and a half, so I'm 6 minutes over.